I think my wife is in love with her female best friend. It's a strange thing to admit, tangled with guilt and confusion, but I can't shake the feeling. Maybe I'm just a bad husband, blind to the ways I was treating her poorly without even realizing it. We've been married for 7 years, our story beginning 8 years ago at a church meeting. That day feels distant now, like an old photograph fading at the edges. She was quiet, kind, and beautiful, the kind of woman any man would dream of. Falling for her was effortless, almost inevitable. But even in those early days, there was something distant about her. She never seemed eager to cuddle, rarely kissed me, and when she did, it felt obligatory, like she was checking off a box rather than sharing a moment. We both grew up in devout Christian families, in a part of the country where faith wasn't just personal, it was woven into the fabric of daily life. But her parents took it to another level, following the holy doctrines with a severity that shaped her traditional views on religion and how women should behave. I always chalked up her emotional distance to that. I told myself it was her upbringing, the rigid expectations stitched into her from childhood. Sometimes, though, she seemed less like a person and more like a ghost. She'd sit in silence, her eyes unfocused, staring into nothing as if her mind had slipped into some far-off place. It unsettled me at first, but over time, I grew used to it. She refused to see a psychologist, insisting, "I'm just like this." And I believed her. Then, 2 months ago, everything changed. She discovered that her best friend from high school was moving back to town. I had never seen her so alive. Her eyes sparkled, her smile was genuine, not the polite curve of lips she offered me but something radiant and unrestrained. I felt happy for her. I thought maybe all she needed was a close female friend. Before this, my wife rarely left the house. But now, she found every excuse to be out, spending time with this woman. She became someone new, vibrant, animated, almost glowing. It wasn't a bad change, just different. And for the first time, I realized I had never seen her truly happy until she was talking about her friend. She'd mentioned plans to grab coffee, and her whole face would light up. I told myself not to be paranoid. I was certain they weren't having an affair. My wife can't lie to save her life, and nothing in her behavior toward me had shifted. But still, jealousy crept in, quiet and insidious. I hated that someone else could bring her that kind of joy. Driven by curiosity, or maybe insecurity, I logged into her Facebook 3 days ago. Some of her friends' photo albums were public. I clicked through them, not sure what I was looking for. The pictures hit me like a punch. My wife and her friend, back in high school, laughing, holding hands, embracing like lovers. Their smiles were bright, unguarded, nothing like the reserved expressions my wife gave me. Her family despises gay people. They never hid their disdain. My wife never joined in, but she avoided the topic like it was a landmine. Now it all made sense. I don't know if I should confront her. Maybe I'm reading too much into this. Maybe they're just friends. But deep down, a part of me is certain, she never looked at me the way she looks at her. When I asked my wife if she loved me, she said yes, but like a best friend. Yes, my own wife just friend-zoned me. She cried, her face buried in trembling hands, apologizing over and over for lying to me. She confessed that when we first met, we clicked instantly, but only as friends. Her parents had insisted she marry me, hoping it would help her heal from past wounds. That explained everything, why she recoiled from hugs, shied away from cuddles, and avoided anything remotely romantic. It wasn't shyness. It was disinterest. I wanted to scream. To cry. To vanish. I'd been patient, understanding every time she rejected my affection, each rejection a silent dagger. I felt alone, hollow. For years, I questioned if I was the problem, if I was a bad husband, unknowingly pushing her away. The insecurity gnawed at me. But she assured me, gently, that I was never the issue. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just left. Packed a bag and went to my sister's house. Divorce wasn't mentioned. Not yet. She didn't even see a problem with what she'd done, with her emotional tether to her friend. But deep down, I knew I couldn't spend my life in a loveless marriage, shackled to someone who'd never love me back. I'm sorry for rambling. I just needed to vent. It feels like I wasted my youth. Update! I didn't expect to write again so soon, but here I am. She hasn't reached out since I left. Honestly, I don't want to talk to her today. Comments. Has she tried contacting you? No. Not a single message. But I need this silence. Just for today. You need to divorce her. Go no contact. You deserve better than a woman who lied for years. I know. I will divorce her. I haven't told her yet. I need time. I always saw her as kind, empathetic. But knowing she used me changed everything. Thank you for your words. Final update. Maybe no one remembers my earlier posts, but I wanted to close this chapter. Your advice helped me more than I can express. I returned home the day after my last update. She was there, curled up on the couch. The words spilled out the moment I crossed the threshold. We're getting a divorce. Not the gentlest approach, I admit. But she had a habit of dodging serious talks, and I couldn't let her derail this one. Her face crumpled. She sobbed, gasping for air through an anxiety attack, pleading, "We can't divorce. You can't do this to us." But her next words cut deeper than any scream. There's no point in breaking up. The fact that I don't love you doesn't change anything. And she was right. Our marriage had always been this hollow shell, her treating me like a friend, me pretending that was enough. She swore she never cheated, not physically. But emotional betrayal? That wound runs deeper. I reminded her she's not even attracted to men. Staying married made no sense. When I asked if she still loved her best friend, she didn't deny it. Yet, she begged me to stay. It felt like I was nothing more than a safety net, a convenient cover. Her shield. Her comfort blanket. But I deserve more than crumbs of affection. I don't need her consent to finalize the divorce. It's happening, with or without her approval. I told her I wouldn't out her, but if people ask, I'll stick to the facts, no gossip, no assumptions. The house? The land? All mine, inherited from my grandfather. Maybe I'm heartless, but I won't give her anything. She didn't argue, just looked defeated. Sad. But silent. I told her she could stay until December. She said she might move back with her parents, and yeah, that stung. They're not good people. But she still talks to her best friend, so at least she won't be alone. The conversation ended awkwardly. I left. Now, I'm at my sister's place. Alone. Thinking. She hasn't reached out, and I'm fine with that. She told her parents about the divorce, and they tried contacting me, but I kept it brief. This will likely be my last update. After the divorce, I'm cutting all ties. We don't have kids. She talked about having a baby once, but I always said I wasn't ready. Maybe, deep down, I knew she wasn't the one. I've been seeing a psychologist since I was a kid. That's helped. Some say I shouldn't feel empathy for her, but we're both broken in our own ways, shaped by religious trauma. That stuff messes with your head and heart. People ask why I stayed, knowing she didn't love me. I don't know. Maybe I justified her actions because I saw parts of myself in her. Maybe I had a hero complex. Or maybe my sense of duty kept me tethered to someone I felt responsible for, even as she rejected my love. Why did I marry her? She was the one who suggested it. We got along well. I was young. Naive. For now, I just want to finalize the divorce, spend time with family, and find myself again. I haven't cried yet. I feel numb. Hollow. But maybe that's the first step toward healing. During my session yesterday, my psychologist said something that lingered long after I left his office. He told me he believed I'd already grieved the loss of our relationship long before I realized it. Sitting there, replaying our conversations in my mind, I knew he was right. It wasn't heartbreak I carried, not the kind that shatters you. It was an emptiness, like losing a companion whose voice once filled the quiet spaces. The ache wasn't for a lost wife. It was for the betrayal etched into the memories we shared. But none of that matters now. I don't want anything to do with her anymore. Maybe that paints me as heartless, walking away knowing the life she's endured. But how do you save someone who doesn't want to be saved? I'm worn thin from trying. So this is my goodbye, not to the woman I once called the love of my life, but to someone who, despite everything, was a friend. And for that, I am thankful. I've read the kind comments people left, even the harsh ones. Some of them stung, but they made me think. Maybe I have been too quiet, too subdued in my reactions. Is that wrong? I was never the type to explode with rage. I'm sorry if this update lacks drama, if it isn't wrapped in fiery emotions or revenge. That's just not who I am. Thank you to everyone who listened. New update. Hello again. It's been a while since I last posted. The mods deleted my previous attempts at a final update, but I felt the need to try once more. My sister found out about these posts and showed me someone had shared my story on TikTok. I made the mistake of reading the comments. Not only had the account twisted parts of my story, but the assumptions people made about me were painful and, frankly, false. Let me clarify a few things. I didn't marry her because I wanted a submissive wife. We were best friends. I don't understand why people assume I wanted a housewife. I encouraged her to work with me or pursue her own career, but she never showed interest. We were financially stable, so I didn't press the issue. I never intended to open our relationship for her. Thankfully, I realized I deserved better. I had already sacrificed so much. Maybe some people are content in a loveless marriage, but not me. Not anymore. I've read comments suggesting I should help her more, be generous with the divorce. But how do you help someone who refuses to help themselves? I tried for years. Now, all I hear are stories about the things she did behind my back, things I don't even want to talk about. Some say she used me because she was afraid to come out. I get that. But do I deserve to be used? To have my money spent on gifts for her best friend? I don't think so. We live in an open-minded country. Even one of my sisters is happily married to her wife. If my ex had confided in me, I would have supported her. She had countless chances to tell me the truth. Instead, she pushed for us to have a baby. Now I see she wanted that as leverage, to secure something for herself if we divorced since she never worked or studied. I recently discovered that her best friend is married with a child. So, no, my ex isn't with her. The situation is messier than I imagined. She insists she never physically cheated, and strangely, I believe her. I suffer from religious trauma, too. Trauma doesn't make someone a bad person. It's just part of who we are. Nobody forced her into marriage. That doesn't happen where we live. When I asked why she wanted to marry me, she said her parents thought it would help her heal, and she believed I was a good man. That's why she pushed for it so hard. So, how did it all end? We're getting divorced. It's a tedious, drawn-out process. I'm keeping the house, the car, everything. Maybe that sounds selfish, but for once, I wanted to put myself first. I worked hard for those things, poured my life into building our home. She's living with her brother now. She never once asked how I was after I left. But I checked on her, sent messages in the early days, asking if she was okay. I had a mental breakdown recently because she keeps texting, begging to reconcile, saying we should have a child. She never loved me, admitted as much, yet insists we should stay married. That guilt she tries to pile on me? It made me realize something. To her, I'm not even human. Maybe not even worth the consideration you'd give a dog. So, I blocked her. I know she's anxious about her future, but I've told her countless times to pursue an education, to build something for herself. I'm done trying. I'm too tired. I don't know what she'll do with her life, and honestly, I don't care anymore. My psychologist helped me see the narcissistic traits she carries. I want to move on because I deserve that. I'm tired of being used. So, yeah. I don't know if anyone will read this, but I wanted to leave this here because people love to twist the story. New update 2. Hi again. It's been a long time. My other posts were deleted, and I gave up trying to share a final update. But today, I saw someone had posted my story elsewhere. I figured it's time to set the record straight because I still get private messages asking how things turned out. I deleted the first post to make a few edits. Now, here I am, finally divorced. I thought the process would drag on for at least 8 months, but it wrapped up faster than I expected. In my country, all it takes is one signature to finalize a divorce. Things turned messy the moment she realized we were truly parting ways. She twisted the narrative, accusing me of cheating, even though all I'd ever said was that we were separating because of irreconcilable differences. It was her way of shielding herself from questions, her parents included. Now they believe I'm the one who strayed, but honestly, I don't care anymore. I grew exhausted trying to decipher her actions, her words, her moods. She became a constant disturbance, showing up at my place uninvited, stirring up emotions I didn't want to deal with. To cut ties faster, I handed over some of the furniture and appliances, things I'd paid for, but it didn't matter. She was a housewife, maybe, in some twisted way, she deserved her share. I knew her persistence wouldn't fade easily. At that point, my mind was so fragile that all I craved was freedom, freedom from her face, her voice, her presence. And then, almost as if shedding a mask, she stepped out of the closet. She's dating an older woman now, living with her, from what little I've heard. Did she lie to me back then? Was that woman lurking in the background all along? I don't know, and I refuse to dig for answers. I don't want to unravel truths that might sting. It's her life now. At least she's living authentically. My sisters, fueled by rage, wanted to confront her, maybe even more. But I held them back. What's the point? Any confrontation would only give her more ammunition. I stumbled upon other things she did behind my back, secrets that still echo in my mind. But I won't dwell on them. It only confirms one thing: I was a fool. Yet, amidst the wreckage, I genuinely hope she finds happiness, real happiness, not the kind built on using others. As for me, I deserve that too. Her best friend? I have no clue where she fits into this tangled mess. My sister knows the woman's wife, they even post family photos with their baby online. But my sister's silent, there's no proof, just whispers and suspicions. Surprisingly, I've been okay. I won't lie and say it's been easy, but there's a strange comfort in letting go. Sometimes, people online seem to sympathize with her more than me. Maybe it's easier to paint me as the villain. But I've reached a point where it doesn't matter. I reject the role of the victim. I've got my family, my friends, they're my anchor. I used to hide pieces of my marriage from my psychologist, afraid of confronting truths I wasn't ready to face. But a few months back, I laid it all bare. He didn't sugarcoat it, he pointed out the emotional abuse I endured. No, it wasn't physical, but the scars etched into my mind run deep. Still, I won't wear the victim's badge. I had chances to leave, to choose differently, but I stayed, clinging to hope like a fool. I've been a victim before, I refuse to be one again. Now, I find solace in simple things, nights out with friends, the pulse of music in clubs. I married young, traded my youth for responsibilities, work, studies, maintaining a home. So now, I'm reclaiming lost time. Less than a month ago, I started seeing someone. It's casual, nothing serious, but her presence feels like a breath of fresh air. She listens, genuinely listens, her eyes lighting up with interest instead of dull indifference. I'm quiet by nature, Some even call it a flaw, but she's vibrant, talkative, filling the spaces I leave empty. Conversations with her don't feel like chores. Intimacy was a foreign land in my marriage. I carried traumas that made it hard to feel safe, to let go. Back then, I thought my ex was trying to be sensitive, helping me navigate my fears. Now I see the truth. She used my vulnerabilities as excuses to distance herself. Every time I inched toward comfort, she'd pull away, claiming she didn't want to trigger nightmares. I believed her. I was naive. But with this new girl, things are different. She's helping me rediscover parts of myself I thought were broken. It's not dramatic, not a fairy tale, just small steps toward healing. After handing over the last of the furniture and appliances, my ex vanished from my life completely. No calls. No texts. Just silence. And that silence feels like peace. I'm young, too young to be divorced, or so it seems. But this chapter isn't an ending. It's a sign, a chance to start over. For me. For my family. I've learned so much, even though the lessons were wrapped in pain. But pain isn't where the story ends.